Hi Satya, welcome.
Hi, Flynn. How are you
This is
doing?
I am good. Hot and humid in Chennai. Uh,
Yeah,
this is a much awaited video. We've been going back and forth and we're finally here face to face. I'm really, really glad.
pleasure is all mine. I was also waiting to see you again, and I really want to thank you for having me here.
Of
I wish
course.
I will be able to share some good two cents of mine, which gonna help our future colleagues to get into their dream school.
Yes, I'm sure this is going to be helpful. So, if everyone who's watching, the last time that I saw Satya like this virtually was when I was taking an interview for him, and now we are back. So, Satya, let me say this. That day, when during a mock interview, I asked you this question, tell me about yourself. Now, I'm going to ask you to ask me the question, tell me about myself, which is you, to talk
All right.
about you. Go ahead. I'm giving you a chance.
Right. So, Flynn, why don't you tell something about myself to our
Okay, so three things
viewers?
that pops to my mind is one thing is Satya is a very adaptable person, I think, well, resilient. I remember that day I walked into the mock interview room and Satya was sitting inside a car parked at the side of the road, I don't know where, already very committed to the task at hand, which is to get his mock interview done and go through the next process to the next process. And the second thing is, I think he's a very understanding person. Comes off as a very kind and a great sport. I remember that day itself because of technical glitches. I had to come out, go back in, and absolutely spoiling his interview experience. But he was really understanding, and that is something that we have seen. Caapid Simplified is seen in him over the past few months. The third thing would be that I think he's a family person. I remember him being the most emotive while he was talking about his kids and his family. And I guess, Satya, that's what probably makes this next step for you a little bittersweet because you have met your dream, but also you probably get to spend lesser time with your family. So that's me. So that's my answer to his tell me about yourself, guys. And also take notes. This way, you match strength along with the story, and that is the best way to answer tell me about yourself. Moving on,
Yes.
Satya, I'm just going to give you an opportunity to briefly tell everyone who's watching where you're at, what you're doing, and what you're going to do. Over to
Well,
you.
Flynn, thank you so much. I also remember our first interview, and
Mhm.
that was in the car. But yes, I like to thank you and the Caapid Simplified team. With the mock interviews, let me start with this. It does not give you how to speak, but it gives you a thought process, how to be in the interview. So that's very important. So yeah, coming back to me, I come back from Delhi. I'm born and brought
Mhm.
up in northern part of India. I did my graduation in Rohtak, that's GDC Rohtak, and I went to do my oral surgery residency at All India Institute, AIMS, New Delhi. And then
Mhm.
also after that, I completed my residency in plastic surgery. So that's my academic journey. And then I also went to University of Kentucky to pursue my fellowship program. So all these experiences all together actually helped me to strive for the excellence. But that's why the coming to an America, having an education in the dentistry is something I always wanted to have. And that led me to apply for universities, look what is best for me. And there I am. Right now, my current status is I'm going to join University of Buffalo IDB program, which is going to
Mhm.
be starting in another week.
Mhm.
And thanks to God, I was also selected in San Antonio, UTSA, and also get shortlisted at UCSF, and I was waitlisted at Michigan. So that's what a little bit of my application profile. I'm a family guy, like Flynn said. I have my wife, she's an endodontist, and I have two lovely kids. Apart from that, yes, I love to play sports. I have been a national level volleyball player, and these days I'm trying my hand on pool table and tennis.
I feel like
That is
it's an
how.
actual interview sort of thing going on because you see, guys, how he responded, not just his work, not just his profile, a little bit about his personal life as well, which is something you should do when you're going for an interview with with your dental school. So before I go on to more questions, Satya, let me just tell this to our viewers. Do not, by hearing Satya's profile, don't for a minute think that, he had an excellent profile and which is why he got into school. So I don't have anything to learn here. I hope that's not your mindset because he has gone through diverse experiences, which is what I think would be really beneficial for you guys. And also, he took a break in between because of several reasons, which he sort of took his time, paused, breathed, and then came back and applied. So all of these instances are what I'm hoping would help you, all of you are listening in. So let's get into that. Satya, the first thing that I had in mind is definitely about your fellowship. So like you mentioned, you have a fellowship in orofacial pain, TMD, and sleep apnea, right? That too from University of Kentucky. So I have two questions on this. I'll go one by one. And the first one is, how did this change your complete dental experience, and how did you translate that experience into your Caapid application?
Right, great. So yes, as you said, I want to put a disclaimer here as well, that looking at that I did my oral surgery or any master, it doesn't work that way. Most of the people, and also I used to think that more degrees and more ownerships may lead me to dental school. It does not work that way. It's just like they see you, you know your stuff, and your why is strong, that why you want to come to the school. If you yourself have an answer to that why, nothing can stop you. So that's what I'm trying to say. No degrees, nothing gonna work. But yes, coming back to your question, the fellowship at America actually gave me an experience how these people think. Apart from, my profile, I try to understand what's their psychology, what they are looking at the candidate. That's the most important thing. And the second most important, which actually make me move towards this, it's not an easy journey, but which make me keep my perseverance on, is like the quality of education they have it here. I want you to pursue that. So that was my why, that I want to keep myself updated in my profession, and I want to work in the best professional environment. So the fellowship when I did, yes, it did help me do some network, but the most important is I try to adapt myself in according to how they think and what they want to see in a candidate. Yes, in my application, I think a fellowship or any small program from America might have helped in shortlisting me for the interview, but when it comes to interview, it's on your own.
So how did you translate that experience? Did you include those experiences in your supplemental answers somewhere in your application to show them how it helped you?
Yes. So the most important thing is when I'm answering a supplemental question, whenever there's a clinical question, they want to see an empathy. Whenever you're discussing a treatment plan of the patient, they don't want to know that you know how to do it and what to do it. They want to know whether you feel for the patient and what kind of sympathetic attitude you have. Not sympathetic, I would say empathetic attitudes towards the patient. So that's just something they want to look at it. And that's fellowship actually gave me. When I look at a patient, I look at an overall profile treatment plan, not just at the two. So if it's a supplemental question asking you to answering you some clinical question, try to answer you keeping an empathy in mind. Yes, you have to be correct with the treatment plan, but empathy should be there. That is what I think.
Sounds good. And the second question that I had is, a lot of our applicants who are watching and applicants who come to us, they're always constantly trying to build their profile. So either for Caapid or just for their career, or enhancement of their knowledge.
Yeah.
So we do get frequent questions about how do we land a fellowship? Like in the US, it's a foreign country. How do we really approach the application? What are the schools looking for? Are there many opportunities for fellowships? So can you tell us a little bit about that? Where to find fellowships and how to go about it?
Right. So I would like to answer this question starting that do not run after all the courses and fellowship. First, make up your mind that you wanting to get into dental school. If you just land up in a fellowship so that the fellowship can lend you a DDS program, it's not like that. It can work as a major, add-on to your profile, but it's not the only gateway. That's why I'm trying to make a clear statement in here. Second thing, how to get into a fellowship is like you have to choose what you want to learn, because when you apply for a fellowship, it doesn't work as it works in India that you apply, you have numbers, you're going to get it. No, when they do a personal interview, they should understand that you have a genuine interest in that fellowship XYZ, prosto, perio, or official pain, whatever. If they find that you do not have that, I mean, that's not a done deal, because they take their residents really seriously. For them, the program is very, very important. They can clearly see that you're using this program for your gateway to the DDS. It's very evident. So when you choose your fellowship program, be very wise enough that your profile, your interest, and your answers should match what you're writing in your statement of purpose while you applying for the fellowship. Is it a gateway for the DDS program? Not a gateway, an add-on, I would say.
Okay.
So in your profile, when a DDS, and I would also like to add in here, there are many schools in US. Every school has a different director. So that director every year wants to choose a certain kind of people. Some director wants that this year I want a mix of mature and youngsters. Some directors think, okay, I'm gonna choose such kind of selected people. So there's always for you, when you apply to as many schools as possible. You never know where your chance gonna hit. Number one. Number two, there are few important things. Yes, you are a BDS. If you're done an MDS, that doesn't mean that you're an MDS, you're gonna get it. No, they see you're a BDS with an experience in certain stuff, and you know your profession. That is how they take it. And then when you add on the fellowship, they will again take it, okay, you have a continuous education tendency, so you're enhancing yourself. They're not seeing he's a fellowship guy, so he knows more. No, they don't want a guy who really knows more than why you're coming to school. They want to know whether you are adaptive and you have that zeal to continue upgrading yourself. And the third most important thing is the TOEFL score, which we may discuss later on. So, and the foremost next thing is SOP, and then your CV, right?
Okay.
So your why, it should be reflected in your application, why you're applying. Second is your English score, very, very important. Third thing is your statement of purpose, which should match your CV and your life. So as you mentioned, the beginning, it is a whole story.
Yeah.
And and now the last thing about your question, how to get into the fellowship. Again, choose your center, write a mail to the program director, show them your real concern that I want to join you. And if they say, okay, come over, so don't straight away apply for a fellowship and go join. Try to get a shadow. Go there, spend like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks with them, like a shadowing program, an observership. Let them know you, let them you know them, whether it's the right place for you or not. Because I also seen when you get into the fellowship, you get into the soup. I feel after a fellowship, it's really difficult to get into DDS program because your stakes goes higher. Their fellowship program is not easy, right? And after fellowship, you are already in the US with a visa status. So you have to look around everything, how it can help you. Just don't blindly run after fellowship, but take a back seat, see where you're standing and how you're gonna get it. The only hitch candidates have or also have it, we feel that the students who are already in America, they're gonna get advantage rather than the students who are in India. I said yes. There's a demand and supply game. Right now, the application pool in the CAPID consists of more of an American student, not American, the immigrants who are already in America.
Already in the US.
Right, already in the US. So when they choose an application because of all those pandemic, school also see about the visa status. So they can come to an interview or not. So that's my answer. So yes, if you want to solve all those stuff, get to a fellowship program, choose wisely, and I'm always available. If you individually want to know anything about it, I can do my homework and get back to you.
I can put that in the description, whatever contact details Satya gives, and you guys can reach out to him. So to specifically sum up what you said, apart from the abstract wisdom that you gave, it's about directly reaching out to the school, right? Like choose a program, choose a place wisely, and then reach out to them and see how if it works for you, and then go ahead with the. Okay.
Absolutely. I just talked about it at a stretch because this is the most common apprehension in all the school application candidates right now. That it's not happening this way. Let's go to America. Let's pick up a fellowship, and then our selection going to happen at TDS. No, you have to choose it very wisely.
True, I agree. So, and speaking of specialization, you have done your master's. So, when it came to your CAPID application, have you taken your letters of recommendation from your master's dean or professor? Why I ask is because a lot of applicants who have a master's degree, an MDS and a BDS, they are quite often confused about where they should turn to for an LOR because there are some limitations and some are open, so they're a little confused. So, what do you have to say about that?
So I believe we have a tendency that if we get a LOR from our master's professor, it's going to put a more impression on the interviewing board, which I feel it's not true. Your one letter of recommendation should be from dean. Why dean? How the school works here is dean is the guy who actually overviews all the school. People want to have a dean's letter. It means a dean's recommendation. It means the dean knows the guy personally, which means out of 400, 500 candidates, dean has an eye on one student. It means he knows him personally. That says a lot. You got my point? And if you're taking a letter of recommendation from other professor, not necessarily. I did not take any letter of recommendation from my master's professor in this application cycle.
Okay.
Now, I only take it the letter of references from my current profession or my current supervisor where I was working back in Delhi. Second, I took it from a dean from my back school from GD Rohtak. And third, I took it from a professor who was at the Kentucky.
Okay.
And
Okay.
why I choose these three people? Because how I mix it up, the dean is the school, the dean is an important person. So he knows me personally from past 14, 15 years. And I did not just went to him and say, give me a letter. No, I'm in contact with him from past these many years. For maybe on a conferences, maybe like say
Yeah.
hello or something like that. So I'm to and fro in touch with him. And I give him updates to my dean what I'm doing. You know,
Mhm.
this is how you build up your network. Second, my current supervisor is able to tell me the application will see where he's working right now. Okay, he's good
Yes.
with his dean, but is he good at his profession? So my second letter of recommendation was from my current supervisor, who actually gave a quality about my professional ethics right now.
Yeah.
And the third from University of Kentucky, that University of letter, that recommendation letter was very personal, which says about my in-person qualities. So when you choose your LORs, choose the people who really know you, who can write down about your professional ethics, your people skill, your personal skill, and something about how you are as a person.
That's
So
right.
this is how you have to choose your LORs. Don't
Yes,
rush. I
it's
want,
yeah.
yeah, I no
I'm
need to
sorry.
rush for
Yeah.
masters or something like that.
Correct. Yeah. It's it's lesser about the titles and more about how much they know you. Unfortunately, I mean, a few rules here and there you have to follow because of school requirements. But
Yes,
more than that, it's about how much the person can vouch for you as a person, your clinical skills, and all of that.
because in
Wonderful.
LOR they want to read how they feel personally about you.
Yeah.
Professional,
Yes.
you have your profile, you have your CV in front of them. The recommendation letter actually says how you are as a person.
Yes. So moving on, another area that you were very much active in was research, right? So there are a lot of applicants again who believe, I think it's a little aligned to the fellowship conversation itself, who believe that research and publications are sort of a prerequisite to a lot of schools, and because of that, they sort of force themselves into it, right? Even if they're not really genuinely interested. So what do you think about that? Have you seen friends or other applicants who get into school without research, or you believe it's a prerequisite? What do you think about that?
Definitely, it's not a mandatory thing. Again, I say research is an add-on. Like you balance your application. Some candidates might have a research. While they spend time doing research, the candidate, he must be spending his time or her time in doing his or her profession. So you have
Yeah.
to balance it. Research is an add-on. The research actually reflects that you are interested in your profession and you're interested in getting an in-depth knowledge about some topic. That is how research means to them. Unfortunately, research in India is not at the same quality what research should supposed to be at most of the places. So running around and running after just getting a research papers, mainly 5 or 6, doesn't mean sense. What I'm trying to make a point over here is if you have 20 articles published in 10 different journals, doesn't make sense if you have one article, one good topic in a one good journal.
Yeah.
So quality overweights the
Quality over
quantity,
quantity. Yeah. Yes.
right? When it comes to research, and not necessarily that you want to have a research. If you have it, which is a quality research, it's an add-on.
Yeah. That's true. And just to add on to what Satya said, we have seen multiple applicants who have gotten into school without any research related things in their CV, because they would have something else on their CV which
Yeah,
interests them and they take part in. And if you're not interested, you just say that I've put all my energy into the parts that I am actually interested in, or I can give my best in. And
yeah.
just along the same line, Satya, how much of your when you went for an interview, right? How much of your research or publication work did you know, or do you think an applicant should know in anticipation of a question in the interview? An interviewer
Okay.
asking you about it. Yeah.
So this is about when any candidate who has BDS, MDS, research, masters, and fellowships, it does not work as a positive. You have to defend yourself, and which I felt in my interviews. In all the interviews, I had to defend myself why I'm coming back to a dental school when I already had a set up life and of my profession,
Correct.
right? So rather than an add-on, it was coming back to me. And I have to defend myself in saying so that why I'm doing that. And that why should be strong in my heart that I know what I'm doing. And they will gauge it in just 1 second. They will gauge it. Are you faking it up or do you really mean it? So when you say, then is gonna help anyone to become a master's, and yes, it's gonna help, but it's also gonna you have to defend yourself. But why you are stepping down? This was asked in one of the interviews to me. One of the interviewer asked me, Don't you feel you have done your oral surgery and then plastic surgery and then you're stepping down to the dentistry? Now, it's a difficult question to answer. I have to support myself why I did in the first time oral surgery. Now, why I'm going back to dentistry.
That's
So
true.
accordingly, for any profession, you have to, for any master, you have to defend yourself. My answer was simple, that when I went to US, even after doing so much, I find some flaws in myself, that there is a good way of doing dentistry and there's so much to learn now. And that is the reason I want to go back to school and learn dentistry again. So
That's
there
true.
could be some answers. There could be move around, but the only thing is that you should be knowing why you're doing that.
Yeah, being coachable and being open to learning that is definitely a
Exactly.
prerequisite for any school
Absolutely.
in the US. And it's more important that you let them know that by
Yes.
communicating it with them in your interview.
But
Yeah.
because when you have an experienced candidates, when you have an experience, it becomes difficult for them to adapt and they gauge it. If they see that you're not adaptive and you're not resilient, they will not take you. On the contrary, any fresh graduate, they're very open to learning. They don't develop that. Unfortunately, how I won't say unfortunately, but it happens naturally when we go up later the stairs, you think that I know a lot of stuff. And then actually that makes you rigid. That should not happen. That should not happen. For a fresher candidate, they doesn't have that. They're very flexible. They're very adaptive. They're like water. They can adapt in any form, right? So it's always plus minus and a balance.
Yeah. Speaking of intangible prerequisites like being coachable, right? Um,
Yes.
having attended multiple interviews, have you ever received feedback from a school where you did not get acceptance, or from where you did not get an invite? And if
Yes.
that's the case, what is your understanding overall? What are the schools looking for? What
All
do we
right.
have to do in ourselves to get through?
Yes. I mean, first interview when I was interviewing, it was an eye opener for me. I sat into the interview. Everything was good. I was very confident. I actually, I made my question in my mind and answered them myself I prepared for the interview. It was an eye opener. When interview went, I thought that I'm done. But when the result came in, I was nowhere. It was an eye opener. What went wrong? Then when I tried to get a feedback, it came out that I answered every question as well, but at the same time, I was too loud while speaking, which is a tendency. Number one. So the way you communicate yourself, present yourself, should be in a manner that you should feel like, for a man, I would say like a gentleman. Gentleman means in India, we have a tendency to speak out loud, right? When we talk, we speak loud, we do a lot of hand gestures. So all those things should not be intimidating. So the feedback was that I was a little loud, a little aggressive towards answering the questions.
Okay.
One feedback. My content was okay. My form was okay. But this is one thing which they feel, okay, this is an experienced guy. He's loud and
Which
aggressive.
may have
Might not
come
be a
off
good.
as a little arrogant, maybe to them, or very
Absolutely.
experienced, something like that. He's very
Not an
confident.
experience because I made sure that I do not sound like. But if you say yes,
Okay.
someone might feel me like an arrogant, might
Cool.
be, because
Yeah.
somewhere somehow I would have said something which doesn't went wrong. So
Yeah.
what, according to you, what I'm saying is this is a feedback. And the second thing I felt that when you speak something, you should choose your words very wisely,
Mm.
right? So re-revise your interview, re-revise the common questions of the interview, and try to put in a good vocabulary over there. All of a sudden, when you say, you might want to say something, and when you have 10 things to say and just 2 minutes to say, you have to choose the quality over the quantity,
True.
right?
Okay.
So these are the feedback I got in my first interview. And then, and second thing, yes, most important, one feedback was, it was an unofficial feedback, like, to get something. And it was like that you come out to be like a sad guy. I was wondering what does they
Oh,
mean by sad guy? They say when they ask about what kind of challenges you had in life. Okay, you try to talk about your challenges, but at the same time, you have to be very, very, very specific about your challenges, and you come out to be like a happy person. You can't say, I had such kind of problem, I faced them, I was mellowing down, I was going down, and then I come up. I think it doesn't work that way.
so are you
So
saying you should
let it,
not mention challenges or
no,
mention them and
you should mention a challenge, but when you mention them, make sure you come out as a happy person. For example, challenge to them like, I met with an accident somewhere while I was in the school or while I was writing boards. It was tough time, but I was motivated to prepare myself, right? So even on maybe in a hospital bed or maybe in a school bed or wherever, kind of, physical challenges and how you overcome them. or
So
maybe any
overcoming
personal
is
challenge.
important, essentially.
Overcoming is important in a happy way.
Got it. Oh, okay. That's very intriguing feedback.
Exactly. So because you tend to say that this is my challenge and this is what has happened and that what I did, sometimes in the storyline we feel like, oh, I'm a sad guy.
Okay.
You
All
have
right.
to be like, I'm going through the challenges, I was fine. I was
Mm-hmm.
okay. Let's see. I
Mm-hmm.
want to put my best. I never felt depressed. That is how they want to know.
Got it. So I guess the story, the moral here is that just like how we are all different people, the you never
Yes.
know the kind of interviewer you're going to get, which is why a
Yes.
little bit of prep. I 100% agree that you should not over prep or rehearse every answer, but I
Yes.
at the same time I'm someone who thinks, being a coach and speaking to so many people, that little bit of awareness and bringing your stories and, like you said, the words into your
Right.
mind, if not your mouth, is very helpful
Right.
to begin with. And
Absolutely.
also ask for feedback. All of y'all watching, if you have the opportunity to get ask the school after an interview that you unfortunately don't get through, ask them for feedback. It will really be eye-opening, and schools are welcome. A lot of schools are welcome to letting you all know what went wrong. Okay. And okay, now moving on. This we have to speak about your TOEFL score, because I remember that you had gotten a score of 111, 11 triple
Four.
one,
One, one.
114. So, 5 hot tips, quick tips to help every all TOEFL test takers who's watching this right now to up their game. Go.
Number one tip, don't settle down until you get a score of 105 or 110. Even if
Okay.
it requires to give you 5 time TOEFLs, do it. It's
Mm-hmm.
very, very important. Don't settle down for, okay, I'm going to get 100. I'm fine. No, you have to crack it. You have to put all the energy in. So 105 target, 105 or 105 or 110. Now, when you give your first exam and you find out you're doing good at reading, you're doing good at listening, but you are not doing good at speaking and writing. Next time, the second time you give it TOEFL, focus on those weak areas. Practice, practice, practice. Don't spend your time in listening and reading next time. Spend most of the times in those weak areas. For me, my weaker area was writing. I gave TOEFL 3 times. It's not just one time I got the score. I gave it
Okay.
3 times. The second time I felt like I got a score of like 102 or 103. I was not happy about it because some university they look for a TOEFL score and they rule out if you don't have 110, they rule out if you have 105. That's how they filter out the application. So second time work on that and do that. If you don't get the score, again repeat, but target at least 105. Give two,
Okay.
3 times TOEFL. And again, if you're saying, oh, okay, I'm done at 100 and 100, okay, no worries about it. But at least give your what is maximum hardest try you can do. And for writing, what I did, I was not able to catch up. So I took a help from a professional English writer.
Okay.
I wrote not less than 52 essays before writing my third TOEFL. 52 essays to and fro. I get them corrected. I get them scored by this guy professionally and ask him what score I should have. Now, there are various ways of getting a good score in writing. There are various ways to get a good score in speaking. I won't say aloud that how to do that, but once you try finding it out, you will get it. So I would say getting a good score in TOEFL is a technique. If
Mm-hmm.
you follow that technique, you're gonna get it. It's
So
not
practice,
that
practice,
difficult to expect.
practice is what you're saying.
Practice and
Practice is
technique. Practice
and
and
testing.
technique. So there
Technique.
are
Okay. Yeah.
yes, there's technique.
To each their
So
own.
there's yes, there are certain ways how to write. There are certain ways how to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those 2 areas you can improve your score. Listening and I think listening and reading, you need to get it better because if you practice by yourself, you're gonna get it a good score in that.
Got it. Okay.
So target 105.
So, just out of intrigue here, though, so did you wait to reach your target of 105 or 1 or 110 before you applied to schools? Did that stop you from applying?
No, it did not stop me from applying. I have 105 in the March Caapid Cycle 2021. I applied with 105, but
Okay.
and after applying, because I don't want to lose on the other schools like Michigan, they started reviewing their application very fast, like in the April, by the end of April. So I applied with 105 because I don't want to be late in the application cycle. And then again, after applying, I gave TOEFL again and then
Yeah, just
updated my score.
I wanted to ask. I intentionally asked that because this is very important. Like, once you get a score that's required by the school, then up your game, of course, then if you have the energy to go through, but, do not stop your other applications, because
No,
it won't be a
do
deal
not
breaker
stop.
for you. Yeah.
Yes, do
Okay.
not wait for, even if you have 100 score, 98 score, whatever score, and you are sitting at a March 23rd or March 25th with the application cycle, go apply.
Yeah.
Do not
And then
stop
just
from
update
applying.
them.
Yes,
Yes.
and the story does not end at the time when you apply. You're done with the application. No, the work starts now. You have to
Yeah.
follow the schools when they're reviewing.
Exactly.
You have to follow your scores are right. You have to follow how many people are in the pool. Stay active in the groups. This is a relative game. It's not an absolute game.
Yeah.
So you have to be
Absolutely.
better
That
than
is
the
very
other.
important. It's a relative game.
Yes.
Yes. Which is what makes it difficult, right? With a fixed percentage, and you're competing
Yes,
healthily with so many people.
exactly. So
Okay.
don't sit back after your application ends. Keep on improving yourself.
Yeah. Keep enhancing. And a worst case scenario, even if you don't get in this year, it helps you with your application for next year. If
100%.
not, it adds to your experience. So, like I
Because
mentioned in the
when you
beginning,
Yeah, because
sorry,
sorry
it
to
was
cut
really
you.
bad.
When you rewrite
Go on.
your CAPID application again, they ask you what you did last year.
Yes, reapplicant question. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, becomes very handy there. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I remember that after trying your luck in 2016, you had to take a break for a while till I think last year, 2021 or 20
Yeah.
to apply. So that is quite, like, I think 3 to 4 years or 4 to 5 years. So was that worrisome for you? Like, how did you tell yourself it's okay to stop, and then you came back to apply? I know a lot of applicants face this problem.
Yes. See, in 2016, yes, I was able to get admit in one of the school, but I was
Mm-hmm.
not able to join because of some personal reasons. So I have to
Okay.
step down. And after 2 years, I just focus on myself and my family. And then, I gained some experience. I went to Dubai and I gained some international experience after that. But that was then afterwards, I also had in mind that I want to get back to the US school. In 2020, when I wanted to give the exam, the COVID hit. So that's how
Mm.
2 years delay happened over there. But yes, in those 3, 4 years, the worrisome thing is, yes, I was thinking I was losing the time. The competition every year is going up. So what
Yes.
I faced a competition in 2016, in 2021, it was very different. It
Yeah.
was absolutely different. Yes. So every year the competition, and why the competition is up? More because of the applicants number are increasing, the visa status is changing, the pool of applicants is changing. So this is what is making the whole scenario or the whole application pool, or we say a competitive application pool. So yes, it happens. So all these years when I was not applying, I make sure that I'm enhancing myself.
Mm.
One day, if I've got a chance to apply, I should have certain things to write down, which shows
Yeah.
that I'm a continuous learner.
Yeah. So I think the important thing is that you keep, even if you have to break, it's fine, but you
Yeah.
keep doing what you do, keep doing dentistry, so that when you come back, you have a story to say, you have your
Right.
experience to show. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think coaching all of them, I feel like, as much as it's important to push the applicants through the process, I think it's also
Yeah.
important, like I feel sometimes that it's important for me to tell them that it's okay to stop if you have to, because that's
Yes.
also an important thing, right? Like if you can't do it, even if it's a physical, problem or an emotional problem,
Right.
you need to pause, it's fine. But just,
Right.
I think this is a great example. 2016 to 21 is a
Yeah.
big gap. So like he said, so many things could have changed. So keeping your eye on the prize and just traveling through time, I
And
think,
this
the
was the
most
question
important.
asked. This was the question asked to me, why there's a leap between 16 to 21,
Mm.
and you need to defend. Yes, life has been a roller coaster for me in between those years, as I said, but you have to present it wisely. You have to
Yeah,
present it, and at the end, because it's happening, it's not you're making up a story. It happened
yeah,
to you. You come out of
exactly.
a struggle. It's just like how you present it. So it's not bad to take a pause and get back to yourself and hit with the full energy. That's better than just keep slogging. So it's
Exactly.
take a back
Slogging
seat.
through will might
Yeah,
just reduce the quality of your application and your
yeah,
energy in general. Yeah,
exactly. When you speak in the interviews, they can gauge it.
yeah, true. Okay, I think I've come to my last question, which revolves around the last stage of your application process in most schools, which is interview. So you interviewed at 3 schools, right? So just as a
More than
three,
that. more
Oh,
than that.
okay. You got accepted to
So,
the
I
three,
mean,
but you interviewed at more.
five or six years.
Okay. So can you give us a gist of how the interviews were different? What did you see in a contrasting manner in these different schools?
Right, right. So this is a very good question. Every school has a different interview style, and I felt that some schools are very casual, very candid to you. Some
Right.
schools are very strict and very specific about the questions, and which once you get to the university with each name, every school you can find it out. The interviews are totally different. But the thing which boil down to everything is that you have to prepare yourself from all the aspects. If there is a specific question, for example, if I ask somebody, tell me something about yourself, and why you school, fla school, then you have that very much 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
On the contrary, you have an interview one-on-one. Now the examiner is asking, tell me something about you, and I want to know. You have 2-3 minutes. So you have to cover yourself, that you have to present yourself in the timelines. So where to be specific, where to be candidate, your body language, now it's going to be physical interviews. So your body language speaks a lot. So in all the interviews, the only thing is prepare, prepare, and prepare. Do not sit in the interview just like that. Take all the inputs and prepare for every school differently. One interview will never work for all the schools.
All the schools.
One style of interview.
Out of the schools that you went, would it be okay to use names and say who had a more laid back approach, who had a more
Okay.
specific approach out of the
All
five
right. So
schools?
I would say the university at San Antonio, that
Uh-huh.
was the best candidate interview I had. There were
Okay.
good interviews. University of Buffalo, University of San Francisco. These are the three interviews which I went, and they're very, very, very cool interviews.
Okay.
Rest of the interview, yeah, very, very cool interviews. University of Colorado, it was a nice interview, but it went a little tighter.
Okay.
So
Very
they were
specific.
looking at specific answers, and you want to be, very specific about your answers. However, on the contrary, the University of San Antonio, it was very candid, but at the same time, I want to say, when you become candid, they want to make you feel comfortable so that they tend to know you personally.
Mm-hmm.
They want to take you that zone where you open up, and then they get the answers how you are. You can't fake it there, you
Okay.
know. So be very cautious about it. Be yourself in all the interviews. Be yourself, and I'm telling you, if you really deserve it, you're gonna get it. And you all are deserving. All candidates are deserving. It's just like we need to present ourselves in the right way.
Yeah. You said Buffalo was a candid interview, right? Is what
I said the Buffalo,
Bu-
UCSF, San Antonio,
San
these three
Antonio. Yeah.
interviews, San Antonio, these three interviews are, I would say, candidate rather than candidate. I would feel that these are like stress-free interviews.
Mm.
When you get into the interview for 2-3 minutes, you feel stressed. Afterwards, you start
Yeah.
feeling relaxed.
I
Now,
remember.
University of Buffalo have very set protocols of their interviews of bench tests. You go,
Mm.
do the bench test. No itsy bitsy, just go and do your bench test. Do not talk, even if you don't talk to anyone, that's fine. They're
Mm-hmm.
not gonna there. You can't network there when you
Yeah.
go to the bench test. Do your work, do your stuff, come back. If you pass the bench test, then it
Mm-hmm.
comes to the interview, and
Interview.
then the interview, and it's very personal interview. Then they ask
I,
to know about yourself. Yeah.
I remember
For
hearing the
example, the
same
University of,
from Lena and
yeah,
Nourah as well about Buffalo.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, the University of UMN, Minnesota. That's
Minnesota.
a very specific interview. They ask you a question, you answer it. They ask you a
Yeah.
question, you answer it. That's it. They don't want to know your. I mean, they want to know you, but you can't go to the story at a stretch.
You're talking
This
about the
question.
Kira interview, or you're talking about the one-on-one?
Well, I never passed the Kira interview though.
Uh,
I didn't go
Kira is
ahead.
exactly. Kira is obviously like
But,
you can't, sort of dive too much into.
um,
Okay.
and some interviews like UCSF and University of Michigan, they make you write answers to some questions.
Yeah, writing
So
test.
so what I find that I was slow at writing speed. I need to practice all those writing speeds,
Mm-hmm.
right? So before the interview and before those writing tests, I tend to write answers what I'm thinking rather than knowing the answer. I tend to time myself and write them. So that during the exam day, I should write well enough information which I want to write in a quality manner, in well defined words. So those interviews are, I also say, a bit specific. Michigan interview was also fun, but a little bit specific interview. It's a very, very professionally conducted interview.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, Satya. One more thing that I had to ask was about the interview, little tips here and there, but I feel over the other answers itself, you've sort of seeped that in, and give an insight about how you can prepare for an interview, how much you should, and what you should have in mind. So yeah, I think I'm good. I really think this will be insightful, because a lot of very specific instances and all of Satya's experience with the interview, I'm hoping will help you guys prepare for that particular school, and also, keep in mind how to apply as well. And like Satya said, I will put his details in the description, whatever contact information he's willing to share, and you guys can reach out to him. He's soon starting school, and he'll be
Yeah.
able to give you as much as insight as he can and help you out.
Right. Right.
Thank you so much, Satya. It was a pleasure. It
Thank
was a
you.
treat talking to you, and let's connect again. I'm really glad we could do
Yes,
this.
pleasure is all mine, Flynn. I just want to say everyone over there all the best. And you are not less than anyone. You are the best piece. God created you. You are special. Never let that thing go away from you. It's just like you
Yeah,
need to present yourself. And all the very
yes.
best.
Truly said. Listen to him, guys. That makes a lot of sense. And if you have any specific doubts about the things that we discussed, you can put comments and we'll try responding to it. And apart from that, if you want to hear about something specific, more topics, let us know. And as usual, hit share, like, subscribe. Share this with someone whom you think might, benefit from this. Maybe another friend or peer who's applying, and help people out. See you next time. Bye bye. Bye, Satya. Bye,
Next time,
guys.
all the best, guys. Bye, Flynn. Thank you.